Yes, you do.
Get it to you.
Give me a second. All right, do you all see my screen?
Yep, looks great.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I'm gonna do a little intro myself. I live in Hardwick, New Jersey, so I call this the really pretty area of New Jersey. And I've lived here for 20 years, although I came by way of the Midwest. So I finally think after 20 years of living here, I have to identify as a Jersey girl now. I have 3 teenagers. I, as you said, have an environmental degree with a passion and love of food and nutrition and health. And I consider myself an activist at heart, especially when it comes to food. So I have been the director of the Foodshed Alliance since 2008. And the Foodshed Alliance has been around since the early 2000s, originally as a program of Genesis Farm up here in our area. It was started as kind of a spin-off program to control the development of the Highlands region as that was happening. And it has since evolved into our own nonprofit in 2010. And so we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And we are focused on the work of fixing our food system. So we like to describe this very much as legacy work. The food system we feel is generating a lot of our problems, from chronic disease to soil degradation to climate change. And so the Foodshed Alliance does this work by creating programs to strengthen sustainable farming, to increase access to local healthy food, and to protect the environment for all members of our community. And we have spoken at this conference before, back in 2015. We spoke about the resiliency plan, which I'll touch on in a little bit. And last year we were speaking at Rutgers on the SAGE program, all around land access. And I'll be talking a lot more about that and giving you all an update. So this year, what we're talking about is how we have pulled all these pieces together. And while each of these programs that we do are independent, like this graphic shows, they're kind of like cogs in a wheel. And so we looked at the way they fit together. We're looking at how our key programs overlap and then viewed it through the lens of connection between our rural and our urban food systems in this state, because New Jersey is such a diverse state. It's not just diverse in its people, but it's diverse in its lands, with the mountains and the ocean and the pine barrens. And, you know, we're kind of wedged in between Philadelphia and New York. And then we have areas like where I live, which is very rural out here in Hardwick. So we are calling this program our Rural Urban Partnerships, Connecting the Food System Dots in New Jersey. So as I said, we're doing work in rebuilding our local food system, and that depends on creating and strengthening our rural and urban partnerships. And we feel that's, you know, that's really important. Why is rebuilding our food system important? You know, we have a lot of reasons, but there are so many that we looked at that we had to kind of narrow it down through the Foodshed lens. And these are kind of 4 key reasons that we feel this work is important. Number 1 is that everyone have ample access to fresh, healthy food, regardless of means. Food is a right, and we feel that it's not just about affordability of local healthy food, but that it's about access to fresh food. And access doesn't always mean financial. We have a lot of food deserts in this state, and these are areas where there's no grocery store and there's no farm stand. And so without access to affordable fresh food, good nutrition is virtually impossible. The second being that local growers are properly compensated for their food. We want to strengthen the local food economy. For every dollar of sales directly to local consumers, twice as much economic activity is generated within the region. And it creates jobs. And so it's when we tie proper compensation to the farmers back to food access for all, that doesn't always mean that we're talking about giving away food or always giving away food, but making it affordable through the SNAP benefits and finding ways to make it accessible, like through a food hub. And one of the things we're finding is that accessibility with SNAP benefits isn't as easy as it should seem. There is no state organized place where somebody who's receiving SNAP benefits can go find out where to use them at local farm stands or at farmers markets or within that farming community. The third reason we feel that rebuilding our food system is important is that thriving farms stay on the land as good stewards of our soil, water, and air. Like so many of the farmers here today, I often feel like this is a little bit of preaching to the choir. But according to an Oxford study, and I'm sure a lot of you heard this one, if we continue to degrade our soils and lose topsoil due to a lot of conventional farming methods, we have about 60 harvests left. And so we have this big work around climate change and environmental work, but if we have no soil, we have no food. And so food system seems like the most imminent place to start. And lastly, that our communities build resiliency in the face of supply chain disruptions caused by weather, pandemics, et cetera. God knows what that et cetera is. But in 2014, we did our resiliency plan, and we talked a lot about resiliency in our food system when Hurricane Sandy hit, when that was in 2012. And I know where I lived, grocery stores shut down. A lot of food supply shut down, and our farms didn't. And I spoke a lot about that for several years, about this is what resiliency looks like in our food system, and had no idea what would be coming around the corner in 2020 when we talked about a pandemic. So although I know our farmers out in our area had a really good year, because of that, what we're trying to do is really make this buying pattern continue, so that this isn't a flash in the pan or a one and done, that it's to keep the behavior of local food happening. So New Jersey is the 4th smallest state, the 11th most populated, and we have the most dense population in the union. We like to say we have an agriculture dichotomy. We grow food in very, very creative ways, in very creative spaces. Food is being grown in the country, it's being grown in the city, it's being grown in large, large acreage, on rooftops, in vacant lots, in shipping containers, hydroponically, aquaponically. The urban and rural growing both make up the unique local food scene that is in New Jersey. This is Rabbit Hole Farm. This is exciting. If none of you have ever heard of this farm, and I wish I had a million other slides to show you, Rabbit Hole Farm is an urban farm in Newark. It's 2 vacant lots. Was owned and started by Kevin and Arelis. They actually have a home across the street. I got to go visit this farm this summer. We did a little tour of some of the urban farms in Newark. We looked at Hawthorne Avenue Farm, Greater Newark Conservancy, and ended the West Side High School project, which is doing container growing, teaching students and growing food. But this farm, this was Kevin and Arelis, and I got to go visit this. And what he's doing is they took 2 vacant lots right in the middle of downtown Newark, right next door to a school. And he combines growing food, recycling rainwater, art, sweat lodge, yoga, you name it. He's created this community space, and he's created it to grow food and to teach how to grow food and all the wonderful things within the community. But what he really said is that he created this to show the community what was possible. And so Kevin and his family saw potential and made it happen, and they keep evolving. So what we're really working to do is to connect these dots in New Jersey for the local food system, meaning forming these strong but flexible urban and rural partnerships like we have with the small urban farms in Newark, with the larger and mid-sized farms out here in rural New Jersey. And so we call that our first win-win, or our first program is local land access for all. New Jersey has the 2nd most expensive farmland in the country, yet about 1/3 of it has been preserved. So that means, as you know, it has to remain in farmland in perpetuity. Right now, the vast majority of this land is in conventionally grown commodity crops, and we at Foodshed Alliance would like to see that much different. We'd like to see this land farmed by organic farmers who grow healthy food for our communities. So what happened is, much like Kevin, we saw a need and decided to do something about it, and that is where our Sustainable Ag Enterprise Program, or our SAGE program, comes in. And before I show you a quick video on that, some history on that program, it's been a long time in the making, and it's been a lot of years in the making. It's hard work. It's a labor of love. It was, this dream and this vision to take preserved land that is out there in our state and find a way to make that accessible to farmers. And so we started It was a seed of an idea. And so we started meeting with land trusts, and we had about 2 years of listening sessions and talking, and does this idea, how can this work? And out of that evolved a partnership with the Nature Conservancy and the Ridge and Valley Conservancy, where we were able to partner in taking over this land, which is part of the SAGE program. So I am going to show you a short video on that before I continue. And this is the part that I'm hoping works. So stay tuned. Give me a second. Oh, that didn't work. Hang on. Okay. Hopefully you can all hear it.
Kendrya, if you're sharing something else from, say like a web browser, you just have to change your share to that.
Oh, is this not going?
No, we only see the win-win slide.
It's funny, I'm looking at it.
Right. What she said.
Huh.
Just
Are you
stop,
looking at it through?
stop sharing and then start sharing again.
Stop sharing.
Mhm.
Okay. And then start sharing.
Yes.
There?
Yes, we can see
Okay.
it now.
And then I'll go back after. Okay.
Yeah, great. Is there sound? I think we can actually hear it. I think when you start sharing, you need
Yeah.
to click video optimized.
So during when you share screen, the very first time when you hit share, there's a little checkbox you have to say also share your screen's audio, share your computer's. So I'm sorry, but one more time, close out of it, stop sharing. And then this time when you hit start share, look for a little check mark that says include your computer's audio. This is also a Zoom lesson conference for those of us we all have been going through it. I can't tell you the stumbling points I've come across. Hopefully we got it. Oh, now we're back to the win-win.
I know. Hang on. I'm just going to let it play through on my end. It's almost, can you all hear it or nothing?
No, no sound yet.
Okay, well, good. I just got to listen to it again.
And so tell us, how did it make you feel?
Okay, so you see my screen now?
Negative. We do not see your screen.
I said this was the thing I had the most fear of, is the technology piece.
Well, you're with some really relaxed, grounded people.
I know. All right. How about this? Now do you see my screen?
Win-win.
All right. Well, I'm sorry you all missed that. So go to our website. If you were at the conference last year, you got to see it. All right. Win-win. Land access. So through SAGE, we as a nonprofit lease preserve farmland. We lease it, and then we sublease 5 to 10 acre plots to emerging and expanding organic farm enterprises. They're not required to grow, to be certified, but they are required to grow according to the organic standards. And we do this at affordable rates for long-term leases. So 10 years is what we start our leases at. It's not an incubator. We're careful not to call it an incubator. These are vetted farmers that have a couple years of experience that are looking to expand an existing business, add to what they already have, or have a way to get started and continue farming in New Jersey. We are, hang on, slide through. We are looking for farmers to grow diversified vegetables, fruit, flowers, herbs, layer hens, poultry, swine, goat orchards, mushrooms. That's not on here, but that would be really cool. And so far we have 2 sage sites. One is in Warren County and one is in Sussex County with a total of 6 signed farm leases. So that's kind of an update if you were at our presentation last year. Our Warren County site, this is Bree. This is a great example of a partnership with the county. I'm not sure all the counties within the state would be this supportive or kind of willing to think outside the box, but Corey Tierney has been such a great partner to us. And so we looked at some county-owned land, and he looked at a couple sites for us that they already had some conventional farmers on, and then he carved out 5 acres, and we were able to put Bree on this site. This is Breadlock Park in Warren County. She has completed her 2nd growing season. She has 5 acres producing vegetables, herbs, and flowers that she sold through farmers markets and has a CSA running. And she's got a lot of friends and family that support her in doing this. Then at our Sussex County site on 206 in Andover, we have 5 farm leases. This first one, this is Stephen and Daniel. These are 2 brothers with over 10 years of farming experience. Dark Earth Farms is a 1st-generation biodynamic farm with a unique and innovative approach in offering top quality hemp, which they just got their hemp license yesterday, vegetables and specialty products at an affordable price. And they have about 10 acres working with a permaculture operation focusing on regenerative practices. The second picture, this is really cool. This is the Sussex County Community College student farm. This college is right down the road from the site. They were actually our first tenants, but because of COVID and schools shutting down, they have had to kind of take a pause on their plan. But this is a relatively new program, and the Sage Farm is this, they're using this to create a working farm business model in which their students can learn to grow, cultivate, and produce food and other ag commodities to be distributed within the college and county area. Their farm production plan is created in partnership with their primary customer, which is the College Culinary Arts Program. And they're going to grow a diversity of vegetables, herbs, and they have recently added heritage grain to their list of things they're going to grow. So anything that isn't utilized by the culinary program at the school will be sold at our future farm stand that's going to be there, sold at fundraisers or donated to food pantries for college students in need. And then these are 3 other ones. The first one, and I think Chief Man and Mikey are actually in this conference. I saw them. So this is Chief Man and Mikey. This is Muncie Three Sisters. This is a Native American owned company benefiting the Ramapo Lenape Nation by growing food, offering employment, and offering part of its profits to social service programs. This farm is cultivating vegetables, garlic, and traditional crops on about 10 acres of land. They've got a lot going on out there. They've got a whole field of garlic that went in. They've got hoop houses. When their tractor came out there, they were the first farm out there. We were so excited to see this finally happening. So that's one of our farmers. And then over on the right, that's Pete Tischler. This is Seek No Further Fruit Farm. And Seek No Further is actually an apple variety derived from an apple in Massachusetts. And Pete is going to be growing organically certified fruit trees, apples, pears, peaches, and plums, as well as berries. He's moving 1,000 trees this year, and then we'll tackle the berries next. He's farming on 13 acres and plans to sell to retail customers, restaurants, and wholesale distributors. And Pete recently brought 2 big shipping containers out that he's going to paint barn red and put a roof over it and use that as his site. So it's really cool. And the middle one, this is our beekeeper. This is Lion's Head Bee Farm. And those hives are up on that building to keep the bears out. So those are what we have there. There are 2 more plots available at the Sussex site. And additional Sage sites are being sought throughout the state. Leases are available for organic farmers with at least 3 years experience and have strong farm business plans. Like I said, it isn't necessarily considered an incubator. So building rural and urban partnerships. One of the projects we are working on this year is to assess the needs and interests of the urban areas regarding the opportunities around the SAGE program. This is a picture of an outing we did this summer where we called it our City to Country Day, where we invited some members of the urban community in Newark to come out and see. This is a family farm out in My Way in Hope, New Jersey, Long Meadow Farm. We took them out to the Sage site. We really expected 3 or 4 people to come when we put this out there, and we had over 20 people come out and do this tour, because we're really trying to not only show what is happening, but to listen to kind of what the needs are. And so we're looking for ways to expand Sage into other areas of New Jersey. And our main impetus for this is to give access to all parts of our society. We want to have farmers of colors and farmers from socially disadvantaged communities well represented within our programs. So we are working with urban ag organizations to help us assess the needs and interests of the growers in this kind of a model. And we're doing this with really grassroots outreach and strategies to get the word out. So outreach is definitely a barrier to some of this work. There isn't one main place where young farmers or farmers looking for land in New Jersey are congregating where we can easily find them. So, you know, in that grassroots spirit, if you or someone you know may be interested in a long-term affordable lease, you can reach out. Eric Derby is our project manager, and go to our website for more information. Okay. The second thing is our local supply chain work. So in 2015, I mentioned the resiliency plan that we did, and that was kind of a look at the state of agriculture and what was happening in New Jersey, a snapshot at the moment. And it was a year-long study, and we published the findings after we analyzed. We did a SWOT analysis, which is the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And one of the major findings. One of the
is a conference like this.
That's not me, right? All right. So one of the major findings was that Northern New Jersey local food system would benefit from the development of a food hub, which is a place to aggregate food from local farms and distribute into markets in population dense communities, as well as to institutional buyers. And this finding was further confirmed by a feasibility study, because we always like to do feasibility studies, and that was done in 2018. And so we had all this information and said, great, now we need to do it. So what we did is we did what all good organizations should do and start with a pilot, so that you don't, you know, make all your mistakes on the grand scale. And so Foodshed Alliance, we are considered a linchpin organization. And eventually, if you convene enough people to talk about the issues, the right people come forward. And that is where Urban Ag Cooperative came in, and Emilio. And Emilio is going to pop in during the Q&A to help answer any questions. And everyone needs to meet Emilio. Emilio, this has been an amazing partnership for us that has bridged all of our programs and has really allowed us to make that urban connection. So we partnered with UAC. They are a Newark-based nonprofit to support them in the launch of a pilot food hub in July of 2020, which heck of a time to start it, but we got a few months behind, but we were able to kick it off in 2020, connecting rural and urban farms with residential and institutional customers in the Newark area. So we started in the early part of the year, started with the farmers market model that would deliver to the wards of Newark, and then kind of moved more to a distribution point model, which the slide kind of shows the different wards and where the pickups are. Orders to the food hub are placed online, and then they're delivered to 5 urban distribution points throughout the city. The Food Hub pilot emphasizes food sovereignty and empowerment in agriculture by prioritizing products supplied by Newark-based food producers, including small lot growers, indigenous, farmers of color, and women-owned farm businesses, as well as out here with our large Northern New Jersey family farms who have a demonstrated commitment to urban food access. There are 2 aggregation points. One is Long Meadow Farm, that's the one on the right out here in our neck of the woods, and the other is the Greater Newark Conservancy. So the Food Hub pilot in its first 2 quarters, hang on. We worked with 16 suppliers selling 136 products to more than 250 customers, and almost 30% of the sales, this is huge, almost 30% of the sales were paid for with government supplemental nutrition benefits, or SNAP. So the ability to access those dollars to give those people access to the food with those dollars and to give the farmers income from those dollars was really, really important. And so the total revenue at the end of 2020 for the pilot was about $10,000, raising the local ag economy and doing that in a way with the pilot that we will now be able to grow that existing pilot and then replicate it in other places. So we feel the pilot shows the true potential of rural-urban ag partnerships, meeting the challenge of connecting the demand for healthy local food in our urban communities with the supply produced by our local growers. Our third focus area is local food access for all. This is our local share program. Every growing season, farmers end up growing more food than they can sell in the marketplace. They grow more than they need strategically to account for potential losses due to bad weather, pests, plant diseases, etc. And what they don't harvest or sell gets plowed under or it gets used as compost. And so that's happening. And then we looked at the statistics saying 1.2 million people in New Jersey, or 13% of the population, are considered food insecure. And that means that they have uncertain access to healthy food. And that has represented a 50% increase since the pandemic started. So many of these people do what they're supposed to do, and that is they turn to their local food pantries to feed their families. And when they do that, they're finding mostly shelf-stable, boxed, canned, calorie high, nutrient low, highly processed food. And so what happens in the food pantries traditionally is that they're feeding people with a calorie number instead of a nutrition number. So in 2012, we looked at these two realities, farm surplus and food insecurity, and we created the local share program. This program sends volunteers into farm fields to harvest or glean surplus food and deliver it to pantries and social service organizations throughout northern and central New Jersey. We're not growing extra. This isn't a program where more food is grown. This is a true rescue program purely. And we do this, that the beauty of being able to do it the way we do it is we are so hyper local and our staff so intuitively knows who needs the food when. And since this program began, we've delivered more than 515,000 pounds, that's 500,000 pounds of fruits and vegetables and tens of thousands of dozens of eggs that would not only have gone to waste in the food system, but these humans that have received it would not have been able to get that dense nutrition. So local share delivers to more than 100 food pantries in our rural nooks and crannies of our state, as well as urban centers. It's important to note that there really is a very real amount of food insecurity in these rolling farmlands out in our area, as much as in the urban centers. And many of the volunteers and the staff that are out here and the boots on the ground that get to witness this say that it's like Christmas morning when these people are receiving fresh food. It's enthusiasm, incredible enthusiasm to just picked corn and peaches and apples and turnips. And I don't think anybody gets that excited about a can of soup. So just because the pantry has all the shelf stable stuff, and that's important and we need that too, it doesn't mean that these people don't want or deserve the fresh food. And food insecurity comes in all forms. This is often sometimes just our neighbors falling on hard times. It doesn't necessarily mean uneducated or not wanting to work on their health. And so we're able to give them that choice that they can choose fresh. And while our deliveries to rural pantries really do fill a large gap, since many aren't served by regional food banks due to geography and distance issues, our rural-urban relationships are now enabling us to serve greater number of people. So not only do we deliver fresh food to pantries, but we also set up free farmers markets in the populated centers where we're able to distribute thousands of pounds of food in as little as 2 hours. So the work Local Share does is just another example of the importance of strong partnerships that we have with our urban communities. This turns surplus food into nourishment. It connects the generosity of our farmers who allow these strangers to come on their field and glean with these amazing volunteers that contribute their time and labor and physical energy, and the food pantries that are willing to take on this fresh produce to provide healthy food to their clients. So that's about it. As with anything in the nonprofit world, we feel so strongly that we can do so much more when we get outside of our silos. We're so much more effective when we work together in these partnerships. So what I'm hoping we can do now is bring Emilio on. And I'm not sure, Emilio, I guess maybe all you need to do is unmute.
Yes, hi.
There he is. Hey, Emilio.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so if either Emilio, if there's anything I missed that you want to say or questions, I don't know how we're doing Q&A, or is it in the chat or are people unmuting? Maybe someone can tell me that.
So right now his window is up next to you and we can see and hear both of you.
Okay. So Emilio, is there anything you wanted to say before I look through the questions?
No, I mean, we could jump right into the questions. I think that was great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking in the chat and I see someone asked about information on the gleaning programs, and Mike linked that. So, oh, thank you for linking the Sage video. So touch base with me, Kathleen, on our website, and I can tell you more about Local Share. How do your Sage farmers address their water requirements? We have wells. We have a well on the farm. We actually have 2 wells. But if that didn't answer, you can ask me more.
Can I throw a question out there?
Yeah, sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you connected with Emilio and what the connection is? Maybe tell that story a little bit.
I'm trying to think back how we had a mutual friend.
Right.
Right? Is that how with Lorraine Gibbons? I'm sure a lot of people on these screens know Lorraine Gibbons, who does a lot of the hydroponic greenhouse growing. And why Amelia, how did she bring us together?
Well, yeah, so I'll just jump in. I think that when I was listening to your presentation, it was interesting because, you know, talking about the urban-rural linkages up until, you know, the end of 2019 and into the 2020 year, we didn't have very many rural partners. You know, we're an organization that's founded here in Newark with an aggregation or a collective of different urban growers. And we have used partner distributors and some rural farm relationships we've had in the past for either live farmers markets in food access neighborhoods or this year for our online market. But really, in order to aggregate enough food and to start meeting the growing demand, and also to make sure that people understood that they had lots of options to keep their dollars in the North Jersey food region, we were really looking for a partner like Foodshed Alliance who could help us create or link directly to some of those farm relationships. And it's been a huge blessing. So I would definitely recommend that, just from my perspective, any organization that's in one of the more urban areas of the state, if you haven't already worked with Foodshed Alliance, to reach out, because you could really bolster whatever kind of distribution efforts you have, if they're pantries, if they're sliding scale farmers markets, if you choose to go the online ordering that we've implemented this year, whatever the case may be, Kendrya and her team can find some really great farmers that are within your very local area to help supplement what maybe your urban growers are doing as well, and that's our model. So we came together through Newark Beth Israel and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and our partners there. And it's been great, and it's really helped us grow. And I think we can double or triple what we did in 2020 in this coming year, now that we have all these great farm relationships. So.
And we did this with COVID and with really having to bob and weave around how that was going to look. So I can only imagine, as we start to get into some more normalcy, what we can do with that hub.
Something you commented on was the SNAP, being able to use the money from the SNAP program to be able to get the payment to the farmers, making that connection. Can you talk a little bit more about that, making the connection with the government programs to try to promote this initiative that you've got?
Yeah, I can say a little bit more, Kendrya, on that. I think just to clarify, I think our 30% of sales was from a combination of SNAP, EBT, WIC, and senior farmers market vouchers. So it was kind of all those programs together. And those numbers could definitely be higher. It was really hard for example, for seniors to access anything this year with COVID in particular. So we didn't get as many senior checks as we have in the past. I know here on the side of like the urban last mile distribution that we do, all of our partner nonprofits that are pickup sites or farmers market sites have to get their sort of individual registrations to be able to accept, like they need a card reader and they have to be registered to accept SNAP benefits. That's something we're working on changing, hopefully, by having people's ability to pay online with their SNAP card next year. We did not have that this year, so people had to bring their SNAP card to the sites of pickup and swipe with us. But WIC and senior programs for those farmers on the call who work with them, there's tons of money in every county that people want to spend on farmers markets, and so our challenge this year was just trying to make sure that every location where people could pick up their contactless delivery was ready to take those programs. So I think we have room to grow. We have room to grow that for sure. But 30% this year was pretty good for us.
30%'s amazing. I mean, there was some statistic that 1% of users are utilizing them at farmers markets or with farmers. So that's such a big number that's not being captured in that local food economy on both sides. And so that's something we're working on.
Well, we had a plan, and just to follow up on that, we had a plan, for example, to try to set up pop-up markets with Foodshed Alliance farmers with your food, Kendrya, from your farmers, and to pop up like directly in senior centers that are here. And all that got nixed this year because of the COVID restrictions. So and also a lot of the senior centers here in Newark are thankfully getting good donations. They were getting actually produce from some other sources and things. So, which is great, and we supported that. But the ability to bring food directly to consumers here was a little bit slowed this year, and hopefully it'll improve. Also, this is a personal plug, but I hope that more of those programs become digital so that people can just pay online or pay more easily instead of having to come to a farmer or a farmer's market and give you these old-fashioned paper checks. So that's my little plug, though.
I know Janine is on this, and there's a lot of work being done with the Food Democracy Collaborative that we're working on to kind of streamline some of the SNAP issues. Like, for instance, being able to one central place to go to say, here's where you can use your SNAP benefits on farm fresh food.
We're working on it.
I know. We're getting there.
I have a meeting with DHS on Tuesday with a long list of the questions that we have about SNAP that were gleaned from the many conversations I've had with Emilio and you and so many other people. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get some answers on that.
That's great. There's other questions in the chat that I'm trying to not scroll by, but someone had a question about the wells on the current Sage site. They already existed, and so farmers are just able to connect into those existing wells for their irrigation. One of the things when we look at sites that are suitable for this, like bare minimum, there's got to be a well. Bare minimum. Fencing would be absolutely wonderful. Infrastructure. This particular site, there is no infrastructure beyond the wells. And depending on the sites we're looking at, there may or may not be. Right now, it's just about the land and the access to water. And then Emilio, there's a question for you in the chat. Can you see that? What kind of support did you receive?
Oh, okay. Newark-based participating in market. Sorry, I lost sound there for a little bit. With our program this year, we provide a lot of logistical support. So one of the things we do is, we've had to have a whole kind of conversation and kind of upgrade our own knowledge about everything from food safety, food handling practices, all that stuff. So we've invested in training and staffing for that side of things. And then we can kind of communicate that to a lot of our very small growers, which are very small businesses or nonprofits here in the city. But what we've done is we work on a weekly basis with like a workflow to understand what kind of products are coming from each of our urban growers and local makers. And then we add that to our online store, and it's sort of like a harvest to order model. So we basically are then doing the logistics and kind of going out and buying what we need from them, aggregating it, and then we do the packing and distribution to customers, so they don't have to do that. Now, when we get back to more live in-person farmers markets, the last few years before COVID, and hopefully after things are a little bit more under control, and more people open their markets again here in the city, we also provide opportunity for a lot of Newark-based growers to physically attend markets when they want to. It's just a challenge for some of them who are kind of all doing this as part-time or extra on top of their other work or what have you. Just have different challenges of getting to markets. So however we can step in to provide support to get small farmers into markets here in Newark is, that's where we try to work creatively and make it happen.
And Pam Lewis, I see Eric answered for you. So that, yeah, the site itself was a conventional farmer. So taking 60 acres that will be transitioned over the coming years to organic and regenerative is really exciting. And I see that, Sarah, the 5-acre rule for farm stands. I don't know, Janine, I think maybe we'll have to add that to the list. I hear you.
Wait, did you say my name? I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a question about working on the 5-acre rule for farm stands.
Yeah, I just responded to Sarah saying that
okay.
There's so much frustration around that rule. I don't have any answers, but I think it's time for us to sort of start to organize farmers and food justice folks or anyone who's frustrated by that rule and see what we might be able to do collectively as an organized front to challenge it.
Yeah.
Presenting a lot of challenges for the work.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, just to chime in on that, luckily, a few of the markets here in the Newark area participated in, which was a, you'd call it, a couple of years ago. We were able to work with Meredith Taylor and then with Department of Health directly on getting a couple of the markets certified to take those checks on behalf of all the small growers. And so that was a big success, for example, in East Orange, city of East Orange, the last few years. And again, it was much harder to deal with that when we didn't have as many in-person customers this year, or we had just contactless pickup. But definitely for urban markets that rely on a lot of those benefits that are restricted by the 5-acre rule, we understand, the history of it, to kind of make sure that the checks go directly to farmers. But for small growers and small urban markets, we still need to figure something out that kind of universally makes it a little easier to accept those, especially in urban markets. So to be continued. And Janine's going to handle everything. So.
That's getting added to the food democracy list. Oh, and Mike put the UAC website in the chat, so make sure everyone is able to grab that. And there was a question about pop-up farmers markets. Any food bank sign up for a free produce pop-up, just contact us. We do have a full-time coordinator of the local share position, and so they coordinate the free produce pop-ups. And they're kind of organized based on location. I know we've done a lot in Phillipsburg and in Dover, high density areas with an abundance, when we have a big abundance of things that we are able to take. All right, are there any other questions while you have us?
All right, Scott's got a question for you.
So I'm wondering when you're going to bring this to like every county in the state, because it seems just amazing to have an organization that's seeking out this kind of land and helping to repurpose it to the folks that want to use it for organic growing methods.
And that's the plan, is that anything we do that we create, it cannot just be a one site. It's got to be replicable across the state. I mean, to have these sage sites throughout the state in urban areas, in rural areas, small, large, some with infrastructure, some with housing, some without. And it's really key in working with farmland or land trusts that have this land, who know the owners, or so many of the county-owned sites. I mean, Warren County, we carved out 5 acres out of hundreds around county-owned Breadlock Park that are all in commodity crops. And that was a fight to get that 5 acres away. So it's just, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a great use to be able to also feed and educate the community, without a doubt. We think it's wonderful, so keep doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I guess we are gonna wrap up, and we do have one more very special guest coming up after this, but we're gonna ask everyone to take another quick 5-minute recess, stretch, pee. You guys and gals are kicking butt, dedicated, watching. You know, it's a long day, but it's a very rich and nutritious day. So go take a 5-minute break. We'll see you in a couple minutes.